questioning. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with Mr. Newman. Mr. Newman, how long have you been in this current role, and did you perform similar reviews of these agencies with the prior administration?
We didn't look specifically at this issue, but I've been leading science and technology performance audits for the last 6 years.
Okay. You made a recommendation about NASA to develop documented procedures for identifying and addressing alleged violations of its scientific integrity policy. Can you describe what you found at NASA and how they responded to your recommendation, please?
Certainly. When we looked at these agencies, we asked what procedures they had in place for addressing violations, and NASA did not have anything specifically laid out for scientific integrity policy violations. They did point to other mechanisms that officials could use, or rather staff could use to report alleged violations, such as going to the IG or reporting things to their supervisor, but that would not allow for a transparent and consistent process in accordance with the scientific integrity policies, and that's why we recommended that they establish that.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Pilkey, you're the only practicing scientist on the panel. Surprised me. Your work was targeted by members of Congress who did not like the results of your research. What impact did that have on your work, and how do members of Congress getting involved in criticizing science harm the science and policy divide?
Yeah, thank you. I think anytime you do high-profile work that's influential and members of Congress pay attention to it, you become a target of interest groups and so on. I was surprised that in 2014, first John Holdren, who was then President Obama's science advisor, put a six-page screed about me on the White House website. That'll get people's attention. And then a year later, a member of Congress opened an investigation of me and my research, accusing me of taking money under the table from fossil fuel companies. I don't think my career will ever recover from those events. It is extremely punitive in this world of social media, where people know you only from what they read. They don't read your research or see your views. It can be incredibly damaging. And so I've come out as a strong advocate for academic researchers, federal government researchers, to be left to call it like they see it. And if someone in a powerful political appointment or a member of Congress doesn't like it, call them here and ask them questions. Any question you want about my research, people can ask. But the minute that it becomes character assassination, I think the entire base of our ability to rely on science is at threat.
Wow.
May I support that?
Sure.
Because I do think that when scientists see things happen to other scientists, they notice. And they see when their peers are called before, when their peers are attacked, or when their peers are unjustly vilified publicly. And so I think it is important for us to look in the aggregate and look what opportunities we're missing in terms of what scientists are willing to say publicly. And we know that a lot of people within federal agencies across administrations see it when their peers are called out for speaking truth to power and sharing information. They keep their heads down as well, and that robs us all of access to that kind of expertise.
Thank you. I'll go back to Mr. Newman. You examined the USGS, part of the Department of Interior, as part of your review, and made one recommendation. Can you discuss how the Department of Interior was to work with on that study, your findings, and how the agency's responding, please?
Yeah, we certainly had cooperation from the agency, and they shared their processes and policies and activities they're undertaking. And we did find that they could do a better job of monitoring and evaluating the policies to ensure that the scientific integrity policies are effective. So that's something that other agencies are doing periodically to kind of assess, is this really helping ensure a culture of scientific integrity? And so we made that recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Last question back to Dr. Pilkey. You've written that the idea of scientific consensus is often misunderstood, and certainly as a practicing physician, trying to sort through the thousands of studies and figure out, well, which one, when do we build consensus is a big deal, and it usually takes years and decades. What do you need? What do you need to understand about consensus in science, and what are the implications for scientific integrity policies?
Yeah, the single most important thing I think for people to understand about the notion of scientific consensus, it's not an agreement of everyone on one thing. A scientific consensus reflects a perspective on the distribution of views in a community. This is why I recommend the importance of scientific assessment processes. Academics, scientists are strong-willed people. They have strong views. Of
course.
And you will find outliers on either side, and you sometimes, if we're lucky, we'll find a central tendency. But the role of assessments is to characterize the full distribution of those views. And that full distribution is the consensus. And if it has a central tendency, great. And if it doesn't, we want to know that too. It's just not one single answer.
Very well said. Thank you, Chairwoman, and I yield back.